Hi there. Now, in order to detect deception and get to the truth, first we have to understand how lying works. And in this module, what we're going to do is we're going to explore the science and the psychology of lying. We're going to look at who lies, hint, everyone, how often we lie, how we lie, and we're also going to examine why we lie. By the end of the module, you'll much better understand how lying works, and you'll be able to start learning how to detect lies and get to the truth. Can you remember the last time you lied? Now, I'll guess with a pretty high degree of certainty that it was fairly recently. I'll bet it was sometime today. You see, the research is pretty clear. We all lie. Studies have found that on an average day, most people are lied to anywhere from 10 to 200 times. That is a lot of lies. These lies come from strangers, coworkers, friends, family. They also come from us. But how often do we lie? Who do we lie to? And perhaps most interestingly, why do we lie? What are our motivations for being untruthful? Let's see what the research tells us. Studies on deception have found that we lie more to strangers than to coworkers. We also know that extroverts lie longer, are more adept at lying, and persist longer in their lies than do introverts. We know that powerful people are a bit more adept at lying. They're more comfortable and they're better at it. And I'm sure a number of examples come to mind when you think of this one. We also know that men and women lie differently for different reasons, but with equal frequency. Men lie about themselves 8 times more than women. Women lie more to protect other people and other people's feelings. So we lie for different reasons, but we lie with equal frequency. Women also tend to be more uncomfortable lying. They don't like being lied to as much, and they recover from a break in trust much more slowly than men do. Our romantic ideals may make us hope that intimacy eliminates lying, but sorry to say, or just to confirm what you already know, it doesn't. Studies reveal that an average married couple lies to each other in 1 out of every 10 interactions. Now, married people may recoil at that fact, or perhaps you're nodding your head in agreement. But you can take cold comfort in this one. Research also tells us that unmarried couples lie to each other even more frequently in 1 out of every 3 interactions. Here we encounter a truly uncomfortable truth because we all say that lying is bad, but inevitably we find ourselves lying in some fashion. So why do we all lie so much? Well, there's no simple answer. Lying is complex and innate, seemingly built into us both socially and biologically. Scientists have discovered that almost all species, no matter who they are, find some way to lie or obfuscate in some fashion. And we also know that the more cognitively advanced a species, the more sophisticated their lies will be. Take 𝐂𝐤𝐤𝐞 the gorilla. Now, you might remember 𝐂𝐤𝐤𝐞. She was the gorilla that was studied by biologists and anthropologists all over the world, and 𝐂𝐤𝐤𝐞 was taught sign language. She could actually communicate using words. She had a vocabulary of over 2,000 words. Now, 𝐂𝐤𝐤𝐞 not only adopted and named a kitten as her pet, but on one occasion she blamed this pet kitten for ripping a sink out of the wall. Now, granted, it wasn't the most artful lie. Kittens aren't known to destroy plumbing fixtures, but 𝐂𝐤𝐞's accusation demonstrated that deception is just not limited to humans. It can include other species, including a primate with the vocabulary of a 3-year-old. And speaking of 3-year-olds, this inborn capacity and this urge to deceive is confirmed in human studies with babies and young children. It seems that we're born with the impulse to lie, and it actually starts really early. It starts shortly after birth. Babies will fake a cry, pause, wait to see who's coming, and then they go right back to crying again. By 1, we've learned concealment. By 2, we've learned how to bluff.
So cool.
Hey, Brindley, did you get into the Nutella?
No.
You didn't? Really? Promise?
No.
Brindley, did you get into the Nutella?
No.
Really?
No.
Well, what did you do?
I just washing the dishes.
5-year-olds lie outright. 9-year-olds, masters of the cover-up. And by the time we head to college, we lie to our parents, if you're in North America, in 1 out of every 3 interactions. Now, no parent of an older teenager is going to be surprised at this. And all of us who recall being high school seniors and college students are going to recall how often we told ourselves about our parents, hey, they don't need to know this. those rationalizations are human. They occur at all ages, but particularly amongst teenagers. As adults, we're even more immersed in lies, our own and other people's. Our world just overflows with all kinds of lies. White lies, false advertising, spam, catfishing, identity theft. Let's look at some of these facts. In 1 year, retail workers steal up to $15 billion from the employers where they work. 25% of top-level C-suite executives lie on their resumes. And in one study, one of the common lies, being a member of the Kennedy family. 1 in 5 employees report being aware of fraud in their workplace, but people are afraid to report it for fear of retribution. And 64% of employees report being misled in some way about their own company, the company where they work, financial well-being. In studies on weekly communication, researchers also found that lies were detected in 37% of phone calls, 27% of face-to-face conversations, 21% of texts, and 14% of emails. Now, this doesn't mean you don't want to get on the phone with somebody just because we see lies in one platform over another. There are going to be certain personalities that are much more likely to tell you the truth without having to look you in the face, and others that are going to be more likely to tell you the truth when you get them right there, face to face. We're going to talk about that later on, but it's important to understand the workplace facts and to understand the different platforms on which lies can occur. Deception and lies come at us at all times, in all forms, from the most anonymous to the most intimate of sources. No wonder we need to be trained in order to spot deception and get to the truth. To learn how to detect deception, we start with a simple but truly striking insight. And that's that lies and deception may often be communicated with words, but lies and communication delivered in person are largely communicated non-verbally, in ways that include body language, even sense of smell. Researchers have found that words make up only 7% of communication. Now, we typically think of communications as primarily words, but it's really only a small part of it. Vocal attributes like tone or how fast you speak make up another 12% of communication. Together, verbal communication, the words you say and how you say them, only make up 19% of communication. Another 16% is related to your sense of smell. And finally, the majority of communication, 65% of communication between people, and some people think it's even higher, is body language, the primary and most revealing form of nonverbal communication. We're going to focus on detecting deception through verbal and nonverbal communication, which make up 84% of all communication. Of course, much of our communication today, however, is digital and is composed only of words. This does add a layer of difficulty to detecting deceit. Because so much deception is communicated nonverbally with many subjects, what's going to happen is that you're going to have more success getting to the truth face to face. Then there are going to be others, some people, who just hate being confronted. And those subjects, maybe 20% of us, do much better on the phone because it feels less threatening to them. As concerning and even discouraging the amount of deception we encounter is, I've got one piece of good news for you. And that's that, except for certain people with antisocial personalities or what were once called sociopathic traits, lying and deception just are not easy for us to pull off. Lying produces real physiological stress, anxiety, guilt, and fear, as well as significant cognitive demands that are revealed in both obvious and sometimes very subtle ways. And for most of us, the stress of lying is so severe that we really can't help revealing our deception with verbal and nonverbal indicators that just leak out of us. This can be true whether someone is telling a complex, well-planned lie, bluffing to cover for an insecurity, or just telling a little white lie. The term psychologists have coined for this is cognitive load, by which they mean the amount of memory you need to use when you're just completing any task. Almost everything we do in life, whether it's loading the dishwasher, sending an email, exercising, requires accessing and applying your memory to the task. Even if that effort feels automatic and unconscious, the kind of thing about which you can say, I can do this in my sleep, you usually can't. You're actually using your cognitive faculties, even if it doesn't feel like it. New and challenging tasks do take more effort than simple, reflexive, and habitual tasks, and therefore they do have a higher cognitive load. But even easy tasks can have a high cognitive load if they're multiplied. And this explains why, despite claiming that they can multitask, research shows that very few people can, and that multitasking actually decreases performance across all tasks. Lying and deception, even bluffing, dramatically increase our cognitive load, far beyond our baseline when we are acting truthfully, because lying takes enormous mental and emotional energy. From composing a deceptive narrative to aligning that lie with seemingly appropriate emotions and gestures and behaviors in a believable way. The whole spectrum of deceptive behavior is incredibly difficult for almost everyone. Think about this from a tech perspective. Imagine you're simultaneously downloading the latest version of Microsoft Office onto your computer, backing up your hard drive, downloading a movie, syncing your Dropbox, re-indexing your email, running 6 other apps and programs all at the same time. Get the idea? Your computer starts to act up. Why? Because the processor is overloaded with way too many demands. And that's what lying and deception do to us. They overload us, both cognitively and emotionally. The resulting nonverbal glitches, if you will, or what trained lie spotters call leaks, reveal clues and nonverbal indicators of deceit. In fact, most of us are very, very sensitive to increases in cognitive load. Using subjects playing video games, researchers found that when a video game increased the speed of music or added a beeping countdown timer near the end of the game, players' heart rates and blood pressure increased substantially. Most strikingly, these players perform much more poorly than those who played without the faster music or timer. That faster music and countdown timer added just enough cognitive load to intrude, distract, and diminish the player's abilities to successfully play the game. When people are telling a lie, they're cognitively and emotionally multitasking, keeping their story straight, trying to act appropriate. But almost all people just can't help making verbal and nonverbal errors that expose their lies. The cognitive load is just too large, too intense, too demanding. And what do? They make errors that you can actually learn to identify. These errors tend to fall into 2 categories: thinking errors and emotional errors. A thinking error occurs when someone just can't keep their story straight. Read this example of a thinking error. The storyteller can't keep the facts straight about whether he or she took the bus or the train. Now, emotional errors occur when someone unintentionally displays emotions that they just can't contain. Imagine you lost out on a promotion, and then you have to go congratulate the person who got it. Can you imagine finding it kind of hard being gracious and generous and having your disappointment or even bitterness leak out? As deception detectors, that's an emotional error that you're going to learn to identify and look for. The behaviors, the appearances, the emotions and attitudes just don't align with what's being said. And when you see that misalignment, it can indicate possible deception. Almost every time someone lies, they make at least one of these errors or slips. Let's watch this video from Miss Teen USA. Now, in this video, Miss South Carolina bluffs her way through an answer to a question she clearly doesn't have a good answer for. Now, bluffing is not the type of lying we're most concerned with here, but I'd like you to watch this video because you'll watch the cognitive load increase on her as the question gets harder and harder for her to answer.
Recent polls have shown a fifth of Americans can't locate the U.S. on a world map. Why do you think this is?
I personally believe that U.S. Americans are unable to do so because some people out there in our nation don't have maps, and I believe that our education, like such as in South Africa and Iraq, everywhere like such as, and I believe that they should, our education over here in the U.S. should help the U.S. or should help South Africa and should help the Iraq and the Asian countries, so we will be able to build up our future for our.
Thank you very much, South Carolina.
Miss South Carolina leaks a lot of verbal and nonverbal indicators of deceit. As a trained deception detector, you can spot these leakages, which can indicate a potential lie. Let's watch one more video of a very well-known liar, Anthony Weiner. Now, Anthony Weiner was a former congressman from New York who resigned from Congress in 2011 after a scandal involving sexually suggestive photos that he sent to a woman on Twitter. See what you can spot from this interview he gave shortly after the news break, and then we're going to revisit this video again once you've learned to spot deception indicators.
Now, finally, 5 days after a photo of a man in bulging underpants was sent from Weiner Twitter account to a young college student in Seattle, the congressman sat down with us, hoping to put an end to what he calls all the distractions.
It was a hoax. It was someone sending a picture of a wiener on Weiner's account. It's one of the jokes I've been getting since I was 5 years old.
Just tell me definitively, is that a photograph of you?
We're trying to find out where that photograph came from and whether it was manipulated, whether part of it might be from something that was in my account.
I gotta say, it sounds strange. I mean, if somebody had a picture of me, my underwear, I think I would know it was a photograph of me.
What if it was a picture of you that was manipulated? That wasn't a picture of you, or was taken from your account or put into your account? What if it was a picture of yours? But let me ask you. But I'm
I mean,
telling
is it you or is it not?
Here's all that I can do. Is that I said, let's try to figure out who, how, how this prank went down, how we make sure it doesn't happen again.
You can call Twitter and ask them, right?
Well, you know
what? Be able to find out like that.
One of the things that we've asked this firm to do, who's going to have an internet privacy firm kind of come in and try to figure out what happened. But let's see what they come up with. Do we really want to have the taxpayers pay for a big investigation of that? I think not.
Pressed on why he hasn't even reported the incident to the authorities, Weiner's trademark sarcasm comes through.
Are you going to investigate? That's like question number one.
And I believe that I
get to the bottom of it.
I believe that I answer the question. I think it's one we really need to get to the bottom of. It's much more important than a lot of the other issues we're working on. It's definitely a 4 or 5 day story. Don't you agree?
Now, it's clear in this video that Anthony Weiner was lying. You could just tell. What you're going to learn in this class is the tools to pinpoint the lie and the vocabulary to name it so you can use lie spotting skills in both your personal and professional everyday life. As we progress through this seminar, it is really important to remember that these leaks or indicators are just that. They're just indicators of potential deception. They're not proof. They are red flags telling you to look closer and to ask harder questions. Let's return to how lies work. A basic lie involves two people. The person telling the lie and the person being lied to. Now, a lie that nobody believes simply has no power whatsoever. A lie only becomes powerful when one or more people believe the lie. So during this training, while you won't be able to spot every lie that's out there, what you're going to learn to do is to detect the lies that could punctuate important decisions you might make in your life. The lies that you cannot allow to gain power over you. Because lying involves at least two people, there's much more to detecting deception than just recognizing when somebody is lying. You also have to recognize your vulnerability, or more likely for all of us, your many vulnerabilities to believing different kinds of lies. And now we get to the hard but truly fascinating truth. Lying is a cooperative act. Now, this isn't to say that it's entirely your fault for believing a lie. The victim of deception isn't primarily at fault. The person who chose to be dishonest is usually more at fault. But it's also true that each of us can investigate the tendencies in our thinking and our personalities that make us susceptible to accepting lies. Now, sometimes we are willing participants in a lie. Believing these types of lies is necessary for day-to-day life and to maintain the social dignity of ourselves and of others. These aren't the kinds of lies we're concerned. Instead, our focus is on lies that can create significant, lasting, potentially ruinous financial, ethical, legal, and long-term personal consequences for you, for the people and the institutions you care about, and for those that are closest to you. And to start understanding our vulnerabilities to serious, dangerous, potentially damaging lies, I want to share with you my 3 rules on the psychology of deception. First, be aware of what you're hungry for. What you want, what you deeply want, because you know what? You might be susceptible to believing a lie just about that. Second, I know it sounds simple, but keep an open mind. In order to be a good deception detector, you really need to be aware of your own personal biases and assumptions. Third, look and listen very, very carefully. L², as they call it in the CIA. Before you start investigating what you're hungry for and in which areas of your life you might be susceptible to believing lies, I want to share a personal example with you where I collaborated in a lie because I was hungry to believe that I could just do it all. Our hunger always gets in the way. So many years ago, I left my consulting business in the hands of a young administrative assistant. I was always in a hurry, trying to do way too much at once. And she was smart, Ivy League educated, extraordinarily organized and likable. One weekend, I'm looking over the numbers and something just seemed off. Now, I trusted her completely, so I called her and I left a message. I said, something's weird, but I got no answer. There wasn't much texting those days. It was a long time ago. She went dark on me. She didn't reply. And then finally I heard from her. She said, you know what? I'm pregnant. I can't talk. Turns out she had developed a forge and embezzle scheme, and she had stolen huge amounts of money when I wasn't even looking. She also stole computers. She even went to the gym and impersonated me to get a free nutritional counseling session. Even after I asked her to come in and discuss what happened, she came in and she proceeded to lie and lie more. Only after many, many months did the full extent of the damage become clear. Now, had I had lie spotting and interviewing skills, I probably could have gotten to the truth much more quickly. But much more importantly, what I learned was that I was the one with the blind spot. I wanted to believe I could do it all. So I just kind of looked the other way while things seemed to be humming along. I was so hungry to grow my business at low, almost no cost, that it was just too good to be true.